In today's episode of the Fireground Company podcast, Cap shares a story about an unlikely institution, one with deeper parallels to the fire service than you might expect. It's a reflection on tradition and culture and keeping them both alive.
The Fireground Company podcast.
All right, welcome back to all you Fireground Company faithful. First, I want to check in now that we've got a few episodes under our belt. Thank you sincerely for listening and supporting Fireground Company. Hearing your comments and feedback, just knowing you're out there listening, has been humbling. We hope the first couple of episodes have been useful to you, or at least enjoyable to listen to. From the beginning, Fireground Company has been about gathering a tribe of firemen committed to what the fire department is all about. If you're with us now, our thanks go out to you for joining this band of listeners and supporters dedicated to tradition, culture, and leadership. And I promise, we've got plenty more great content lined up for you each month. And for more food for thought, check out our blog called The Logbook on firegroundcompany.com. Today's episode is a little different, which is why I thought it deserved this special intro. Cap and I have been toying with the idea of a companion podcast we've been calling the Insider Podcast. The vision for it is to pull the filter back a bit and take a more eclectic approach to our conversations on leadership. During one of our recording sessions, we were about to wrap up when Cap asked if we could hit record on an improvised episode. We agreed that if it went well, we could bank it for the future Insider feed. But when we stopped recording, I asked him to release it right here on the main one. This is a story I've heard Cap tell before, and it always strikes a chord. The themes of simplicity, clarity, focus, dedication, and the overwhelming value of culture and tradition run through it. A glimpse of how things used to be, and as you'll see, how they still are in some places. Aside from my rambling right now, this episode is mostly Cap talking. We hit record and he just went, and it's one of the most stirring versions of this story I've heard. So hang in there with him, enjoy the imagery of a simple life lived by committed individuals, listen as the threads weave together and lead straight back to the fire department. I hope you enjoy today's episode, and if you don't, you can blame me. I made him do it.
Can't figure out my left and my right.
It's hard.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's ride this wave, baby.
All right, so this is we talk about, right, our leadership, tradition, and culture. Mm-hmm. This is going to be tradition and culture, and this is, I think, something to learn from. There's some parallels here. I just thought this was interesting to bring up and talk about. Just bear with me.
Okay.
I got to set this up a little, and I think, as we go through this, you're going to see what I'm getting at.
All right, I'm here.
So, all right. So I got the whole, let's set this up. I got the whole stereotypical thing going here with last name, Scotch-Irish, right? Firefighter, Catholic, right? That's all, I got a big stereotype thing going there, right?
Yeah, sure. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny now that you think about it. Anyway, and I go to mass religiously because religion, and I usually go to a mass that's in Latin. It's called the Tridentan Mass or whatever, and it's very traditional. There's a lot of Catholic, just cultural things that people probably think about, they see in movies, the incense and everything else. And what I think is cool about this is this goes back hundreds of years. So it's almost like looking back in time and you're like, wow, this is what someone did 500 years ago. This is exactly how it was done. And I just think that's interesting. I mean, just like the fire department where there are traditions and cultures that go back a long way, and you realize how powerful that is. And I don't know. That's something I'm always interested in. Anyway, kind of setting that up. Kids, whole Catholic thing. I'm not going to go into all of it, but there's a sacrament they were getting, confirmation, and it's Catholic sacrament, and it has to be done by a Catholic bishop, and it's not always offered everywhere because there's priests, but there's not a ton of bishops. And we were really interested, and we wanted to do it in the the traditional Trident and the old school, the rite, because there's something about that, man. Something about that. So we have to do it. We have to travel to Catholic seminary. All right. So we go there, and I'm going to give you a little more background for this. So there's Catholic Church, a lot of problems, modern day. There's time period in the 60s where they made a lot of changes. It's something called Vatican II. And this gets controversial, and I'm not a church historian or anything, but there's a large number of people that think the things went off the rail in the 60s when they had this big Vatican II, where it's almost like a conference it's not, but I mean, that's, I guess, for the lay person to understand, where they got together and they decided on how they were going to conduct business going forward, the rules and formal rituals and everything else. For the most part, they're doing the same things, but they changed and scrubbed a lot of the tradition and culture from it. So then you look at that time period, and the number of priests, the number of nuns, all starts decreasing, right? So it starts decreasing, and you're like, well, I mean, coincidental, right? No one wants to do that. Fast forward now, that's like the, mid 60s. So we're like a solid 50 years past that, a little more. And the part of the Catholic Church that's growing is the part that went back. The majority of the church does like a new mass in English and everything else, but this other one in Latin that's a little longer, that has a lot more tradition, a lot more culture to it. That's where the younger Catholics are all going, and it's growing. That's the one part of the church that's growing, and you're just like, that's kind of interesting. I mean, because we see this in the fire department, right? We're trying to scrub a lot of the tradition and culture away from the fire department, but most of us crave a lot of that. Because it gives us identity that separates us from, we're different than everyone else. Everyone's not the same. Everyone, someone's really good at accounting, or someone's really good at sports, or someone's really good. So we are different. And I think it's good to embrace that. I'm not saying be a jerk to people that are different. I'm just saying embrace what's different about the different groups you're in and cultures you're in and everything else. And there's a beauty to that, right? So, we go down there, and it's interesting because I noticed this with the priest that comes up and always says mass, which is a Sunday service, Catholic circles, to the chapel that we go to. And he's a younger guy, right? I'm starting to notice all these other priests are younger guys. So I'm paying attention. They're in seminary, and the priests in the seminary, it looks like a recruit school of like fit dudes that can get after it. And you're like, that's interesting. So I'm like, this kind of looks like a recruit school I'd want, people that look like they're fit, in shape, and everything else. So, I'm starting to pay attention more. And, we get there in the morning, and they're moving around, doing different stuff. It's a weekend. It's like a school where they have Monday through Friday classes. And what's incredible is they go to the seminary to become a priest for 7 years.
Wow.
And a lot of these dudes, they're like, what's crazy is a lot of these guys were making this decision at 18, 19. Some of them are later 20s, but they're making these decisions early in life. And you're like, well, that's interesting, man. I mean, you're giving up a lot if you're going to be a priest. You're not getting married. You're not, there's a lot you're giving up, man. So I'm just, looking, and there's like a group of them that are walking away. And they're going off to kind of, do something. And then there's another, a bunch of families there. And one of the families we know, the grandfather of the kid doing confirmation, he likes to wander around. So he wanders off. So later I find out, and there's more to this I'll get into later. He says, yeah, I was walking around, man, and they were all, and they're in, picture this, they're in again, stereotypical, the black collar, with it's the cassocks, where it's kind of, it's not pants, but it's still long. It looks, I mean, I don't want to say, I hate to say it like a dress, but it's like, that priest, that old school priest look that I think you think about in movies. And he says, yeah, they walked out, they're wearing that, and it's hot, dude. It's like 80 some degrees. And they walk out, and he says, this priest was just, or he's a seminarian, so he's not a priest yet. He's just crushing pull-ups, man. He's just like, they're standing around watching this dude do pull-ups. They're rotating through and are like, what in the world?
That's not an image of seminarians that we get very often.
No, it's just like, what is going on? So, it's like, okay, so now I'm even more interested. Like, what is this? So we go through, and they have the sacraments, and we go through the ceremony and everything else. And after that's done, they have like a little lunch thing or whatever, and they're serving us, like the seminarians and stuff like that. And then there's a tour, so you can get a tour of the the facilities. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. Let's see what's going on. I mean, it kind of almost, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a castle, but it's an impressive building. It's a newer building that they built. So we're going through and they're showing us stuff, and you start to realize they're normal people like you, and it was just, it's just funny. They're telling us different stories. The seminarians are giving us the tour. And one thing just noticing the building about it, I thought was interesting is we tend to, in our world, leverage technology so much, right? And it's interesting because you don't think about things before that. Well, I was noticing in their rooms, and they talk about it. So their classrooms are plain, dude. There's not much there. There's like a crucifix in the front, a little cross, and then below that there's a dry erase board and a clock on the wall, and that's pretty much it. And there's tables where two seminarians can sit, chairs, very basic. That's it. All their stuff, the way they teach, is from books, and they'll write up on the dry erase board.
That is so awesome.
That's crazy. I mean, in today's world, but this group again is thriving with that. And these dudes that come out of that, these guys are, Catholic my whole life and everything else. And, the homilies, part of the mass where they speak and talk about, they read the Bible, the gospel. It's just top notch, the way they tie stuff together, the lessons they have for you to think about, and, how you could better yourself. You're like, this is unbelievable, man. This is top notch stuff. So I thought that was interesting. The building itself, just going back in time a little bit. And then they have, as we walk through, there's like, I think it's called a refractory or something. And I'm not sure, I could be getting that wrong, but it's interesting. Just old words. It's basically their cafeteria. Mm-hmm. It's this massive cafeteria. Again, they have like smaller tables. You can sit a few people to them, and they have, the seminarians all sit at these tables. Then at the front, there's a long table, and then the instructors sit up there, and then they have like these communal dinners and everything, and lunch and all that kind of stuff. And they obviously converse while they're eating. And then there's a part of it where they read something, some kind of teaching, not like from the Bible, but someone commenting on it. It's just interesting. But they start to go into how this all gets done. And there's like rotations of jobs. So then I'm starting connecting jobs. Like, this is like a firehouse where you have, dudes kitchen duty. They got to, prepare stuff in the kitchen. They got to clean the tables, and there's rotations to that and everything else. And I was like, man, this is kind of like a massive firehouse, know? And they're explaining more about the day. And then they're saying how usually after dinner, they get a little bit of time, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff they do. They are working nonstop. These guys are all day long. But so we go into their rec room, which is kind of looks like it's out of a castle or something. They have this fireplace that is probably 6 feet high by 10 feet wide. And they have like a pool table. They have some newspapers, some magazines. It's just random. They had a bunch of like different board games and stuff. And he's explaining, we usually go in here, and they have like their little mailboxes. And he's talking about that. They're not allowed to have phones. So like while they're in school, they don't communicate with their family electronically. Everything is written letters. So they do written letters. They don't look at the internet. It's like, so they'll get newspapers. It's like, a lot of times the newspapers they could be from like 4 or 5 weeks ago. So they're in their own little world or whatever, but they're focused 100% on what they're doing when they're there. And I was just like, wow, this is kind of wild. They actually have like looks like a phone booth where they can actually call their family, but they don't have time. Everyone can't do that. So obviously, if there's some major issue or something like that, the instructors have all the communication and all that kind of stuff, but they they focus on why they're there for the most part. They even have recreation, dude. They're like supposed to play sports and stuff. So these dudes are going out, like I said, they're doing pull-ups and everything else. They're playing, they're like volleyball or, whatever it is. They're throwing footballs around. There's like a part of the day where there's a little recreation. It's not excessive, but a part of the day. And I know you find this funny is, so they're giving us the tour, and like as we go through the basement, you see like there's like rowing machines and, kettlebells and a few weights and everything else. So the guy giving us, I was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And he's like, yeah, interesting story. And I was like, what? And he goes, the guy giving us the tour says the rector. So the rector is like a principal. He's the guy in charge of the whole thing. He restricted us from lifting weights. We could only lift weights 3 times a week. He said we were getting too big. I was like, dude, this is it's like incredible.
That's awesome.
I was like, I wish I had that problem.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just wild, man. And you go through and there's these rooms they have, and there's woodworking stuff because they build a lot of their own stuff. There's like a machine room, and they have like these, work aprons on, and they're working on stuff, welding and all. It's like, what is going on? I mean, a lot of the food, it's a massive property, hundreds of acres. They have their own cattle. They slaughter their own cattle. They do all this hands-on stuff, and they're expected to study and everything else. They all have their little jobs. So again, so much like the firehouse. So, we're just walking around, and then they, and some of this is just kind of funny side notes, but there's a library. So there's this nice library they have. Like some of these books, dude, are 400 years old. I mean, they're not the ones they're handling every day, but the history they have is incredible. And some of the, I guess you say the workmanship of like the book, like making it is just extraordinary. Anyway, there's like this, there's 2 floors to it, and there's this area that has railings. It looks down on the floor below, and it's shaped like an octagon. And I think I mentioned, my wife and I were joking about it. It's like, oh, it's an octagon. I wonder if they have fights. And the guy hears me, and he's like, yeah. We talk about that sometimes. If we had a big fight, like who would be the winner? And I was just like these guys more. It's like they're like us,
Yeah.
It's you just, like I said, you forget these are human people, but they're doing some incredible stuff. And I just, so the guys, he's walking us through, and everything's very simple, very, very clean. And, they're telling us about, so there's another story. We were just talking about different things. And they said how, we found out one of the families. Well, I guess my wife was talking to one of the other families that lives near us that traveled down there. And she's, whatever, it's kind of, I guess, a little sad. Her husband passed away, single mom, and she has some issues with her vision. And they're like, oh man, And anyway, their car broke down a mile away from the seminary. You're like, man, it's like so unfortunate. So my wife's talking like, well, hey, worst case scenario, they have to get it towed. We have enough room where we can give them a ride back home because we live near them. So I guess before we knew all this, broke down on the way in. She calls the seminary, says, hey, I'm about a mile out on this road. We're broken down. So they're like, okay, they make arrangements. They go out and pick her up. And there's like seminarians that are priests. They're going to be priests. And then there's, brothers or monks. Well, there's this guy that's a brother, and that's how they refer to him. And I'm not the best with understanding the exact differences, but when I say brother, picture, he looks like what you would think of like a monk would look like in a picture or a movie. And so the one guy, they make arrangements that, the person that fielded the phone call, and then they call up Brother Mark, and they're like, hey, Brother Mark, we got this situation. Can you go take a look? So Brother Mark goes out there, takes a look at the car. I mean, the axle's jacked. Like it was something that came apart with the axle or whatever. And, they start talking about this guy, Brother Mark, and the one guy's like, he can do the work of 10 men. And they like kind of laugh. He's like, no, I'm not kidding. This guy can do the work of 10 men. So apparently Brother Mark goes out early in the morning, Saturday, calls up a parts place, figures out what's wrong, gets the parts, drives to the location, fixes the axle. By the time everything's over early afternoon, the car is fixed. I mean, it's like, what in the world? It's like, yeah, I guess this guy can do the work of 10 men. I mean, he's doing like masonry. He's, this dude's doing, I guess the way they explained it to me is he's kind of there. I guess they kind of, I get at least what his responsibilities are is he's to help the seminary in different ways. They have their own, I think he comes from a group that's all the way out in Arizona, and they have their own little place and everything else, but they help priests in different capacities and everything else. So I was like, man, they're talking about Brother Mark, he's doing this and that. And then they said, yeah. And they're talking about the land in another conversation. I was like, that's pretty cool. There's mountains over there. And he says, yeah, Brother Mark usually goes up there with this other guy. It's like, he's a Protestant, and he owns, a few hundred acres over there, and they go shooting. And I was like, what? Yeah, they go shooting. And he's like, I don't know. Brother Mark's, he's cool. So, they're talking about all this stuff, showing us this place. It's just, it's incredible. And, you start paying attention to their determination, the fire, the energy they have. And one of the priests, this is another time, was explaining, and it clicked for me. If you don't know much about the Catholic Church, there's an order called the Jesuits, and they were pretty much the special ops of the Catholic Church. So they would send these guys in these places, like to the Aztecs, right? The Aztecs are doing some horrible things, human sacrifice on grand scales, all this other stuff. They would send these the Jesuit these priests and say, hey, go out there, bring them the gospel and everything else, and this is a terrible thing, we need to stop. It's like a virtuous thing to go out there and stop these people from slaughtering other people. Send them out there, and it's like, all right, we sent Father Tommy out there. Father Tommy gets killed, and then they're like, all right, well, hey, Mikey, you're up. Send Mikey out there, just killed. Like they know they're pretty much going to die. And the church kept sending them there. Eventually convert the Aztecs, and, they stop all this human sacrifice. There's an intensity though about that, to do that, right? To risk your life. You know what I'm saying? Risk your life on that level. Pretty much you're done. And there's a good chance you're going to die in a painful way. And it just, I'm not trying to compare that exactly, but you think about, there's, like I said, I'm just thinking about all these parallels. It's like, we risk our lives, not maybe in that exact manner, but there's some serious stuff where, there's people, it's like, I'm sure knew that they may not come out of this situation, but they risk their life to save a person in some kind of fire or bad situation. And there's something to that. But I look and I see in these guys, you can see it in their eyes, man, the intensity. That's the intensity they have that you haven't really seen in the church in a long time. You haven't seen that. But these dudes in their early 20s, the intensity that they have is amazing. So you start thinking about, how did that happen? Is there anything I can learn from this? I love it. I love that aspect of the Catholic Church, that small community, those guys. And, part of the reason, it's not all of it, obviously, I believe in God. God's a big part of all that. I truly believe that. But they're the human aspects of it, tradition and culture. They had an extraordinary tradition. They never left. That small group, never left their traditions from hundreds of years ago. They never left the culture from hundreds of years ago that worked. It's almost like a time capsule. You see how powerful that is. And that's something, if we look at with the fire department, if we can go back to some of those powerful traditions and cultures, maybe they have to be tweaked a little for modern day. But if we can just figure out how to do that, I constantly think about that, bring some of that stuff back, it's going to look a little different everywhere. It's such a powerful motivator. You know what I mean? Such a powerful motivator that a lot of people talk about, but I don't think they connect how powerful it is. And I really think that's something we need to go back to, man. And I know we talk about it a lot, but it's just, if there's a way you can do that where you work in the littlest form, do it, man. Do it. Take every opportunity you can to build back or maintain the good powerful traditions and culture of the fire department. Otherwise, we're going to lose our way. It's going to become a job like any other job out there. And it's not any other job. It is a job where you risk your life. And it is a job where even if you don't pay the ultimate price, which I don't want anyone to pay, it will beat you down. You are sacrificing your body, your health, a lot of time with your family. Make it worth it. Make it something special and pass that on. Anyway, that's just my take. I just wanted to kind of get that out there. Little different than maybe, most of the stuff you hear from us, but I don't know, man. It was a powerful thing. I had to share it. I wanted to, bring that to people. So I don't know. You think I'm crazy?
No, I mean, I think, I don't know what we're going to do in the editing room here, but I mean, that can just sit. I've been quiet this whole time. So anybody who's like listening is like, hey, where did Clint go? I'm sitting here wide eyed. So let's just play around a little bit here. Let's just say that can stand as an episode on its own. But I again, you can't see me because it's a podcast, but I'm wide eyed, and for lack of a better term, I'm fucking fired up right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, can you play drugstore psychologist for a minute and just tell me why, especially the stuff about the seminary.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, I'm hearing you tell that story and I can see these guys in my mind, and there's a fire in their eyes that I just don't see anywhere anymore. And I want all of that. I want all of that. I want that culture. I want that simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
I want that clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why? I mean, I'm 40 some years old and I still get fired up by that idea. Why?
I think it's 'cause there's a minimal amount of distractions and a clear purpose. And I think what you think about the fire department today, right? We have a ton of distractions.
It's almost all distractions.
Yeah. And I'm not even talking about like distractions from outside the fire department. I'm talking about inside. The number of programs we have, the number of just different little initiatives and different computer programs and applications and everything else. And we have so many distractions. Email. It's just this massive monster of, I've heard it before, people say it, other people's to-do lists, things. And there's none of that in it's like a human thing. I don't think we were meant to have all these electronic distractions. And I know that's part of the world and there's good stuff, but maybe it's more of minimizing that and a clarity of what we're there for. A fire chief coming in and saying, look, we are here to run emergency calls. That is why we are here. And we are here after that to train to run those calls. There's certain necessary things we have to do, but I want that to be your focus. I want that to be, how do you get better? And they build upon that. And the powerful thing I think with that is, like I said, this is a tradition that goes back hundreds of years. They figured out how people work. That wasn't the first time they put people through a seminary. This is hundreds of years of figuring this out, and they had it distilled down into what it needs to be, and they didn't leave that. So sometimes we're in the fire department, we're looking for the new shiny thing, the new best thing, the best practice, best practices. I hate that word. I hate best practices. You do what works. You know what I mean? It's just this clarity of purpose and focus, and I'm gonna be careful because I mean, there's a, like I said, I believe there's a spiritual, a God aspect. There's a power there that the fire department doesn't necessarily have in its purpose, but we have some of that. Because if you believe in, a God and everything else, then you believe in helping people, right? So there is some connection there. We do have a powerful mission, man. Maybe not if like as powerful as that, saving souls, if that's what you believe in, but we have a powerful mission in showing up and making things better. And there's a big risk. It's not every day, but it's there and you have to accept it. That's very real. And there's a toll on us, and the people that we come to help are in a bad situation, and we're there to help them. But just the clarity of purpose, we need to get back to that. I mean, as departments were using like sometimes iPads and all this other stuff to train. We don't need all that, dude. We need like a simple, maybe a textbook, maybe a simple textbook, and we need to go out and do the skills. I don't care, this generation. So you're telling me people have changed in 50 years that much that they can't? It's because they were trained for distraction. They were trained for looking at media, but humans are humans. You can somehow reel that back in. I still think even, when we get people from recruit school or whatever, and they come out and they're a rookie, how do they learn best? They learn best by actually doing the skills. Our drills aren't complicated. We have some of the most simple drills out there. I mean, we always are looking for simplicity. And it works really well. We're not trying to invent the wheel. We're trying to figure out what we've been doing, just maybe tweak the edges a little and get really good at that. So, I mean, that's to me, those are the lessons that we can pull in from that. And then just the work ethic, the accountability of all that, just, I don't know, man, it's like taking pride in the littlest things. And I know it's a struggle. I still believe in it all. I don't, if no one else wanted to, follow me, if no one else wanted to do that, if no one else, I'm going to do it for me because I know it's right. And that's what I've decided. I don't care. I mean, like I said, again, this is a big thing to connect, but you think about those guys, they sent them out by themselves, and they pretty much in a terrible situation to try and change a people that was doing human sacrifice. And they went by themselves, and they were fine with, all right, I'm by myself. I'm going to do what I need to do. So there's something about that, man. I don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care if no one buys into anything we have to say, if no one, uses one of our mini courses, if no one even listens to the podcast, that's nice. I don't care about any of that because I know this is right. This is the right thing to do. And if there's one person that does it listens to any of the stuff we have, or this is helpful, cool. If not, I did the right thing. I'm content with that, and I'm good, man. And we're going to live that out. I don't know.
I don't.
I don't know. It's just how I feel.
I feel like I have a lot of questions, but mostly I just want to know. I mean, so my next question was going to be, so what were your takeaways? You're in that environment, which you painted a picture of so well, but you went through it. You kind of said just now what were the takeaways, but because so I'm thinking the whole time, like, you were saying that there's this kind of community within the Catholic Church that attracts the people that are bought into that, and I'm thinking, like, so what if we did that with the fire? What if there was a fire department somewhere that said, like, we are, the old school stuff? Everyone would want to work there, right?
Well, yeah. And
so what's being lost in translation here? Why isn't this getting up to the top?
Look, I mean, I'm not a fire chief. I'm a captain in a fire department, like medium to small size fire department. And maybe someone's listening to this right now that maybe will be a fire chief. Maybe they're going to be a deputy chief, or someone that hires people or can control the destiny of an organization. And there's a theme here that I've heard, and I've told you before in some other organizations that people would consider elite, and I consider that seminary elite. And the same, reading the founder of Delta Force, his book, some of these other elite special ops and all this other stuff, and they're not selling the benefits. They're selling the difficulty. They're selling the hardship. Life in our time is easy in a lot of ways. It's not hard, man. But I think we're meant for hardship, man. There's something there. And again, I just want to get this out. Another story that I think I've told you before, but it's powerful, is they were talking about this, this kid. He's coming through, very smart kid. And he has a I think it's like engineering or something. He has like a scholarship, but he also is interested in the priesthood. So they take him on a tour. They show him the seminary, the same thing, I was talking about. And he sees it all, and he meets with the rector, the guy, like the principal. He meets with him, and cordial and just talking, and he says, hey, the kid says, I really appreciate this and everything else, but I have this, I'm interested in this engineering degree, and I have a scholarship and all this other stuff, and I just don't think it's for me. And what did the guy do? He didn't try and convince him. He said, he said, when you're ready for something more difficult, we'll still be here. And that's it. And I mean,
That's it.
And guess what? 4 years later, that dude was in the seminary and became a priest. That was all he said, man. I mean, it's pretty epic, man. Pretty powerful there, where he's like, when you're ready for something more difficult, we'll be here. And that's all he had to say, man. Instead, we're running around, and it's the same thing. I mean, like, I can't remember exactly, but the guy that founded Delta Force, he was doing some stuff, and especially in Vietnam, he was trying to, if I remember correctly, trying to get some special units together, and something along the lines. I wish I had it, right there in front of my brain, but it was something like, if you don't want medals, but you likely are going to die, and you're going to, this and this and this and all these terrible things, then, sign up. And the names, they were off the chart, the dudes that wanted to sign up, because they wanted to be a part of something special. That's what we have to make the fire department again. We have to make it something special. And we don't necessarily have 100% control over that. We can, at the worst case, we can maybe pass this on. This could be the lifeboat for the guys that are building it in the future. Whether that's our sons or someone else's kid or someone that's hearing this right now that's going to be a fire chief, we can pass this on. And if we can affect it, we're going to affect it in our own little world. But they want to be part of something special, something elite, something that has a purpose, doesn't just exist. It's actually there for a reason. It's not for the benefits. It's not because I get certain days off or I get a paycheck or I can work out. It's because it's hard, because it's elite, it's something different, and it's not something that everyone can do. There's something to that, man.
Well, and let me ask you this, because obviously, it kind of starts to sound kind of scary, all this talk about hardship and doing hard stuff and everything, but I think there's something we're not talking about here too, is that, and tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but tell me, those, when you look into the eyes of those seminarians, okay, there's a satisfaction there. I hate to use the word happy, because it sounds kind of soft, but there's a lightness to their being, right? And there's a light in their eyes about the work they're doing and stuff like that. So I think on the other end of this, it's not just about, doing something hard. It's about the satisfaction of a life that's spent that way,
Yeah.
and that we're leaving contentedness and satisfaction and happiness on the table by not doing these hard things and not living this way. Because I mean, when you tell me these stories about these guys, I mean, they seem like they're having a good time. They're doing hard stuff, but they're having a good time.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's that is the community of that group of people that can appreciate it, and it's being on sometimes the other side of something hard. That constantly repeats itself. I mean, like what, last night we had the situation where we had the fire alarm, and the building's a mess, and we have to go to the basement to figure out even what is going off, and it says elevator machine room. I can't get a reset. We got to walk all the way up, and it turns out it's like 18 floors plus the mechanical room. And that's not including the 2 floors where we started from the basement that we had to go down with all our stuff, our high-rise packs, the irons, accessory bag, all our gear. We had to walk up, and it wasn't fun. It was hard, but there's something about being on the other side of that. We didn't cut any corners. We could have taken the elevator. It probably wasn't a fire. It's not the right thing to do, though. We chose to do what was right, and it was hard, and it felt darn good to be on the other side of that, to say that we had the determination to do that. And no one knew about it except us. That was the reward we needed to know that we could do it. It wasn't the other people patting us on the back. No one knew. Yeah, was the building, were they happy when we finally got the fire alarm silenced? Yeah. They didn't really know what we did. They didn't know that, that little personal suffering. We are better for it. We are a better firefighter for it. We are a better person for it. We gained some determination, some understanding of how far we can be pushed. There's something to that. And I loved every minute. I don't know if you could tell. I loved every minute of that suffering. I can
always tell.
Like there was something about it. I loved it, man. And it's just the way you think about some of this stuff. You embracing the suffering, man. There's something about that. It's, again, I think about the church all the time, man. Like, fasting and everything else. It's a sacrifice. It makes this food taste even sweeter, man. And I know a lot of people are doing fasting for longevity and all this other stuff. The church did it. The church did it for suffering and discipline, and realizing how wonderful some of the things we have are. The benefits, the good things of the job, you don't, if that's all you have, you never really appreciate them, right? That's great that you have them. I'm not going to do them because of that. I'm not going to do the job because of the benefits. That's just nice. I'm doing the job because I love what the job is. So after suffering, the rest is even sweeter. After, fasting, the food tastes even better. There's something about that. It elevates the human experience. It elevates the human experience, being on the other side of that. And you can't get that. You can't fake that. You can't buy that. Can't buy any of that stuff I just said. You have to do it. So.
All right. My final question before we depart here is, and I know your answer, but I want to hear you say it. You think that there's still people out there that want this like you do?
Yeah.
That we can employ the fire service across the nation with go-getters like this?
Yeah, no, they're there, man. But don't get me wrong. There's a lot of bad eggs. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of problems, man. I'm not diminishing that. This isn't going to turn around tomorrow, but it takes time. You may be at the beginning of the journey. You may not, like I said, man, going up the stairs, you may not be the guy. If you think about it, it's almost like a race where you're passing the baton. You may not be the guy that enjoys it when you pass the baton each level, and my life is passing the baton to the guy that still has to go up another 10 floors. And I may not see the guy that makes it to the top, that gets the rest and the satisfaction from that. I'm in that direction, and I accept that. So I think we can do it. We just got to keep going in that direction, and we can't give up. And there's people out there that want it. It may be a small group right now. What did I say at the very beginning? That's a small group of the Catholic Church, right? Most of the church fell away from a lot of this stuff. That's a small group, but it's the biggest growing group for young people in the church. Because it's different. It's elite. It's harder. It's not the benefits. It's the sacrifice. It's the toughness. It's the benefits of going through that, the hardness, the sacrifice, all that other stuff. Can't buy that, man. Can't buy that.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for stopping by. Check us out at firegroundcompany.com. You'll find links to all our social media accounts and our YouTube channel, and you'll stay up to date on everything we're working on. We also have a store on our website where you can support us as we grow this community, plus working on some great courses to help you strengthen your leadership in the fire department and support its traditions and culture. Last but not least, subscribe to the podcast, give us a rating, leave a comment, spread the word, get this out to the firefighters who are hungry to make the job even better.
The Fireground Company Podcast.